When preparing your cells for your DEP experiments, the first thing you're going to want to do is get your cells into suspension. In order to do this, if you've got an adherent cell line, you'll use whatever protocol you normally use to detach your cells to get them in suspension. For a suspension cell type, all you'll do is simply pipette your flask into a tube. Once you've got your cells in suspension, you'll need to centrifuge these down to produce a pellet. In order to do this, again, you'll always use whatever protocol you normally use to passage your cells. In our case, with Jurkat cells, K562 cells, and our HeLa cells, we use 1,000 RPM for 5 minutes, and that's sufficient enough to get us a pellet at the bottom of the tube in order to resuspend in our DEP medium. This will make up your first wash. Once the cells are done centrifuging for this first wash, you will then take your cells and remove all of your media supernatant. This is the same protocol that you'll use when you're passaging your cells. It's important to get as much of the media out as possible. You'll want to do this slowly to make sure that you don't disturb the pellet. Once you removed all the media supernatant, you'll have a pellet at the bottom of your tube, and you'll resuspend this pellet in 5 milliliters of DEP medium. You'll want to make sure that you pipette your pellet so that the suspension is uniform throughout the 5 mils of DEP medium. At this point, if you don't know how many cells you've put into your flask, this is the point where you'll do a cell count. Typically with DEP experiments, you'll want somewhere in the millions of cells per mil range. Somewhere between 1 and 3 million cells per mil usually is enough. This also depends on your cell type. If you've got smaller cells, you'll need a higher concentration, with larger cells needing a lower concentration. You can take 10 microliters of this cell suspension and do a cell count while you're doing your second wash. Your second wash will again be the same centrifuge settings as what you use for your passaging of your cell type. Once your second wash is done, you'll take your cells and again remove the supernatant, being careful to remove as much supernatant as possible while not disrupting your cell pellet. At this point, you'll resuspend in DEP medium, but the volume will depend on your cell count. So again, you're going to want somewhere in the millions of cells per mil range. So if your cell count gave you 10 million cells per mil, you'll want to resuspend this in 10 to 20 mils of media. However, most cell counts are going to be lower than that, and you'll end up resuspending somewhere between 1 mil and 5 mil, depending on what type of cells you're using. At this point, your cells are sufficiently washed and all the high conductivity medium should be removed. You can then safely run your DEP experiments. However, if you're still finding difficulty getting results, you can always do another centrifuge wash to ensure that you've removed all the high conductive media.